You know what I was thinking? I think that one of the more compelling questions that was raised with our Becoming Brigitte series was, is it possible for someone to be like, yeah, no, really, all of my friends keep getting trouble for abusing kids, but I swear it's not me, it's just all my friends. Yeah, I find myself kind of arriving at this same question regarding Turning Point faith. I don't like Turning Point faith. I'm an enemy of Turning Point faith. There, I said it. I think it's pretty obvious. I don't like it at all. These pastors, their backgrounds, finding God, the grift of finding God I'm referring to, becoming very obvious. And I'm asking the question, how many connections are too many connections when it comes to activity in the East on military bases? Also, you are going to believe me now because I'm going to show you this lawsuit that they're going through. It's making its way through the courts anyway. Just allegations, I suppose you could say, but it certainly puts another coin in the Candace was right jar. So let's jump right into it. Welcome back to Candace. Okay, today's show is going to be brought to you by Nimi Skincare, so thank you to them. It's refreshing to work with a brand that has not changed with every single cultural trend. They have clean ingredients, simple routines, and products made in America. So that's why I love Nimi Skincare. You can visit NIMIskincare.com today. Where should we begin? War everywhere. That's just what we're doing. It definitely seems like land grab everywhere. And it doesn't seem like it. That's what's happening. And you know what actually is stuck in my head? It kind of lives in the back of my head that we never really discussed more fully on this show. But when I spoke to the influencers at the retreat, and this is not suspicion, by the way, Bill Ackman confirmed it, that he gave this presentation to encourage younger generations not to own property. Like, I'm sorry, what? Yeah, you should just rent for the rest of your life. Just become rent slaves for the rest of your life. I feel like that so perfectly fits into this narrative, this global narrative that we have, where it seems like somebody hit a button and they are rushing and they just want to buy up land. And they're doing it through a lot of different venues, private equity, buying a bunch of land. Then you have these unnatural disasters and suddenly the land's super cheap. And of course, their preferred method of war. War everywhere all the time. So many people, oh my gosh, you won't believe what these radicals are doing. And of course, it just seems to be that whenever Bibi Netanyahu's around the corner, like, hey, I want that piece of land, suddenly our media starts telling us, hey, you wouldn't believe how free these people are trying to get in Iran. These people are really, woo, we need to free the Iranians. Oh, they've been living in oppression. BB is over here like, ooh, land. Oh, no, really? It's about spreading democracy. Code word, that's military code word for dropping bombs and stealing a bunch of stuff that isn't ours, a bunch of land that isn't ours. Anyways, war with Iran, it's now back on the table firmly. Why? Because, well, Israel wants it. And one of the more interesting things in the Charlie Kirk timeline, our master timeline that we've created, is the month of June. Because we know that during the month of June, according to Tucker Carlson and other people who have come out and spoken about this, Charlie goes head to head with Bibi Netanyahu. And Charlie wins, by the way, in the moment. He lobbies in the month of June for President Trump not to get involved in Israel's war with Iran. He says just limit it to taking out their nuclear sites, anything more than that, and you're going to lose the base. And yet everybody around Trump is completely infiltrated. They're a bunch of Zionists. They're lobbying on behalf of Israel. No, do more, get involved. Charlie wins. Charlie was adamant that war with Iran would not benefit the Trump campaign, and it would not benefit the American people. And we can hear him in his own words on this because I find it compelling that they want us to honor Charlie by not asking questions, donating money, but not by actually carrying forth his actual ideas, the things that came out of his mouth, the issues that he was concerned with in the months leading up to his life. So let's listen to Charlie Kirk regarding the neocons who could buy their way, apparently, onto the Turning Point USA stage and their insistence that we need to go to war with Iran. Take a listen.
Let's do some updates about Israel and Iran and potentially the United States. On one side, is the Lindsey Graham, John Bolton types, where they are actively calling for regime change. Here is Lindsey Graham. This is just lunacy. This kind of analysis is not helpful. This kind of approach, this kind of argument, it has nothing to do with nuclear weapons at this point. This is now that we want to go all in and take out the regime. It's time for us to close the chapter on the Iranian Ayatollah and his henchmen and start a new chapter in the Middle East. And that sounds good, doesn't it? But what have we learned when it comes to wars, and especially wars in the Middle East? What you draw up on a whiteboard rarely happens. What you think theoretically is going to occur, there might be unintended and unforeseen consequences, especially when you're talking about a country 2.5 times the size of Texas. It has 90 million people and was an ancient and great power with well over a dozen ethnic groups. You have underground Christians. You don't really have many Jews left in Persia. But also you have secular younger Persians. Who's going to run the country exactly, Lindsey Graham? This sounds like Hillary Rodham Clinton in Libya.
Well, I would push back, Charlie, only to say that it's very much the intended result. I find it so funny when people make the argument, well, you wouldn't want to live in this country in the Middle East. You wouldn't want to live in Iraq. Obviously, the West is the best. Yeah, do you want to know why I wouldn't want to live there? Why I want to live in Libya? I want to live in Iraq? Because we bombed them. And we wouldn't stop bombing them. We bombed them pretty much into the actual dark ages. That's the goal of these things, is to make it so these people can't live ahead and live in poverty. So yeah, no, you're right. I wouldn't want to live there because neocons insist on bombing and taking these countries' resources and controlling them therein with really kind of gangs. That's kind of the methodology. Gangs will then run the streets and we will supply the weapons anyways. Tucker Carlson similarly echoed this at the time. Lindsey Graham was just doing what Lindsey Graham does. I think personally, he's got the largest blackmail file. Whatever Israel has on him, it is terrifying, okay? It is terrifying. We know what Lindsey Graham probably gets up to. We've had some male hookers come out and make some allegations, but they were running a pretty sophisticated blackmail ring in D.C., and Lindsey Graham just comes out and immediately is like, whatever Israel wants all the time, bomb them now. And Tucker Carlson, I think, put it quite succinctly when he said this about Lindsey Graham. Take a listen.
What you don't want are flighty, emotionally incontinent, silly people on the payroll of foreign nations making the decisions in an empire, because that's how you get in trouble. People like, just throwing this out there, say Lindsey Graham. Here he is in the aftermath of Venezuela.
To the people of Iran, we stand with you tonight. We stand for you taking back your country from the Ayatollah, a religious Nazi, who kills you and terrorizes the world. We pray for you. We support you. Donald J. Trump is not Barack Obama. He has your back. And to the Ayatollahs, you need to understand,
He's gonna cry.
if you keep killing your people who are demanding a better life, Donald J. Trump is going to kill you.
Every time you see that guy on TV, it really just reminds you of like getting pulled over for DUI with your drunk girlfriend in the passenger seat screaming at the cop, "You can't do this! Take your hands off him! He's going to beat you up!" Lindsey Graham really is the drunk girlfriend. Picking fights he'll never have to participate in. We're going to kill you! Settle down, son.
He is so correct with that analogy. That is exactly who he is. But I think he's got tears in his eyes. I think they call him and they're like, we were going to release the file right now and everyone's going to see what you did. And then he's like, that's Lindsey Graham. Anyways, back to Charlie. I want to now show you this in our master timeline. Charlie going head to head with Bibi Netanyahu, because June is when things start to look funny. Okay. Not a great thing in your life to win against the murderous Israeli regime, okay? Not so concerned about Iran, very concerned about the murderous Israeli regime, okay? And we're going to look at that timeline between just the dates of May 13th through to June 24th. Now, I know you don't even know this plane, this purple plane, light purple plane, SUBTU. This is when we get to the Egyptian planes here, but I'm building this all up for you with the priests and the pastors and Liberty University. There's a reason that we're waiting on that. But SUBTU is a plane First, our anchor plane comes in. The anchor plane comes in May 23rd, lands into Provo. And I think in terms of the patterns that I'm seeing with the Egyptian planes, it gets there before their A-lister arrives. You know, like they get there, maybe scope the place first because somebody big's on board. May 27th is when that follow-up plane comes in. That's always going to be a quick trip. And if you actually looked this up on Flight Radar, you would not see this trip. It's going to look to you like this tail number, SUBTU, is just flying around in circles in Cairo. I have been able to confirm that they are able to trick their transponders and they can leave the nation. So it is a fact. You're not going to be able to see this on Flight Radar. You're just going to see a lot of activity looking like it's just going around. But this tail number, SUBTU, is going to fly into Provo, and this Walid Mahmoud is going to be aboard. That's an important name because that's going to be the same Walid Mahmoud that's going to be on our yellow plane on the day of Charlie Kirk's assassination. And there's no transponding. Anyways, then we have it departs on June 2nd. Back, it leaves Provo, heading back to Cairo. And once again, it does not transpond during that flight, but I have confirmed that those planes were in fact in Provo. Immediately following this trip, Iran and Israel's 12-day war commences, okay? Now, maybe actually, since it wasn't transponding, who knows, maybe it went to D.C. That plane could have actually gone to D.C., I don't know. I shouldn't even say it went back to Cairo. But on June 13th, Iran and Israel's 12-day war commences. Every time I start building these planes, something's going on in Israel, and these planes get going. And I've learned Provo basically has a city underground. Pretty safe place, I would say. I would speculate that if you needed to get a very important person out of the area, out of Israel during wartime, and Provo would be a great place for this person to go. And there were some strange cancellations. But again, I'm going to save that government cancellations in Provo at that time. But I'm going to save that again for when we go through the Egyptian planes. Point being is that Iran and Israel's 12-day war commences. And we know that then between June 14th and June 21st, leading up to our Operation Midnight Hammer, which is when we send out the planes to bomb Fordow, Charlie's lobbying and saying no more involvement, okay? Another interesting thing, which I didn't introduce as I've been building out this timeline in the background, is that on June 19th, Erica purges her Instagram, okay? She deletes 126 Instagram posts. By no means a little. That is according to Social Blade, and we have that somewhere so you can see that. So I don't know, maybe Charlie's saying, I feel threatened. I don't want people knowing where we're going. Who knows? But that's a noticeable purge of content that takes place in the same time frame. I just wanted to explain that to you because it's on the master timeline. And then, like I said, what happens is, bam, we decide to bomb Fordow, a limited military exercise. And everyone says, war with Iran is over. The Panikins were wrong. And we were going, no, we weren't wrong. We weren't wrong. What BB wants, BB gets. So this just means we're hitting pause. And now we're here. Okay? Now we are actually here and they are demanding that we get more involved. And now they're doing their preferred, just in time, a color revolution. They're taking to the streets, demanding freedom. Really, CIA and Mossad, if you haven't done this literally in every country, like if you could just do a new strategy, I might actually believe that. I don't even believe that like 2% that's what's happening in that country. It's just, color revolution. Pretend it was organic and we're here to rescue them. Anyways, it's interesting. All of this is interesting because we don't see those principles of no involvement, staying away from neocons. We don't hear that now being reflected at Turning Point USA. Like we're trying to figure out in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, which was obviously a good thing for Bibi Netanyahu, his war ambitions in Iran, what exactly has this organization become? Well, here's one thing that I can tell you, and you probably will believe this, but yesterday, obviously, I speculated, because I am enemies with their faith division, that it was, in fact, created in the image of the Moonies cult, a Korean cult. And after I questioned their expansion into estate planning as it pertains to the elderly, I was going, kind of weird. They used to just want a donation. Now they kind of want you to put them in your wills, someone brought it to my attention that there actually was a lawsuit filed at the end of 2024 against Turning Point USA and YAF with exactly the inclinations that I had underscored. Okay, remember, I told you the assassination of Abe Shinzo, the former prime minister of Japan. He was a longtime prime minister. He gets assassinated because the person was destitute, broke, and said, Abe, you are to blame for this. Your entire cabinet is filled with this. You've been pushing this. And my brother committed suicide. I almost committed suicide. We don't even have enough money to eat because my mother gave all of her money to this church, the Unification Church. Well, guess what? This is real life. In December of 2024, a court petition was filed challenging the last will and testament and trust of a man named Alton C. Jennings, okay? Alton died at 95 years old. He had a very long life. Per the lawsuit, these are still just allegations. Per the lawsuit, Alton began showing signs of a cognitive decline in 2020. And at that time, a year later, rather, in 2021, he hired a caretaker. That caretaker's name is Mitch Manley Sr. Okay, so you're thinking, Grandpa now has a caretaker. We're good. I should tell you this lawsuit was filed by his grandson. In this lawsuit, the grandson alleges that thereafter, Mitch Manley Sr. isolated his declining grandfather from his friends, from his family, and he seized control of his finances. Now, I should now tell you that Mitch Manley's son, so Mitch Manley's the caretaker, his son is Mitch Manley Jr., who was working for Turning Point USA at this time. He's actually working on Charlie Kirk's show. So his dad's taking care of this old man who's in cognitive decline. And here we go. The son is working for Turning Point USA. And would you believe it, lo and behold, when the elderly man died less than 3 years later at the age of 95, the family discovered that he had changed his will. He changed his will in November of 2023. So for clarity, just 4 months before this man died at the age of 95, he moved to change his will. You'll never guess who he decided to leave his estate to, estate which was valued at $25 million. He left it, split it amongst Turning Point Action, headed up by none other than Tyler Boyer. Ta-da! And YAF. What can I say, you guys? Granddad was a patriot in his senile state. He's like, you know what? I know that I had my grandson and my family, but I just decided that at the ripe age of 93, actually, I would like to give to causes in Arizona. And so bye-bye, grandson. How does that make you guys feel? I don't know. I am just amazed. I'm actually, oh man, the Moonies cult just opened everything. Everything is just locking into place suddenly. And look, I want to be clear, just so I sound like a cultist. I'm sure this was all done for God. Really, who could possibly think otherwise? If you have any questions about that story or you want more details, I want you to know that you are trying to destroy Charlie's legacy. Everybody grieves differently, okay? And yeah, some people have wills and estates changed for 93-year-old men, and the money is awarded to themselves. It's the best way to grieve. Now, why is this all just feeling so the opposite of godly, almost satanic? Yeah, welcome to politics. And speaking of satanic, and I mean literally, speaking literally of satanic, many of you were emailing us regarding a certain board member at Turning Point USA, right? We kept discussing this element of militant faith. All of these pastors happen to be in the military. Oh, it's kind of weird. Background in high-ranking military members. People using Christianity for ultimately what looks like militant aims. Global governance. For whatever reason, when we explore that topic, we also find this recurring theme of sex abuse. It's almost as if all of these satanic things are coming in the name of the Lord. Well, enter this TPUSA board member named Paul Vallely. Paul E. Vallely. I want you to look at this guy. And he is exactly the kind of board member that I would expect to be involved with Turning Point Faith. By way of background, Paul E. Vallely was a military commander. He was the military commander for none other than the 7th Psychological Operations Group. That's already compelling for me, right? The 7th Psychological Operations Group. There were 6 before it. And what number are we at now? Okay, can we just take a second to appreciate that our military is literally running mind wars? Mind wars. And that's what he did. Our military is engaged in them. That's why I keep telling you, when you're on the internet and you're just being yelled at and they're just trying to break down your brain, they figured that if a bunch of people say something, you'll just follow the lead. That's what these bot farms are all about. I actually kind of subscribe to the dead internet theory, especially when I'm on X. I'm like, this is obviously run by the military. I've never seen the bots say we shouldn't go to war ever. And yet when I speak to people, nobody wants to go to war. So there you go. Anyways, back to Paul Vallely. Vallely did 2 combat tours in Vietnam. He was in Japan, Korea, Iraq, Israel, you name it, all over the place throughout Europe. And while he was serving, he collaborated with a major that was working under him, okay? This major became his official research and analysis team leader, and his name was Major Michael, look at those eyebrows, unbelievable, Michael Aquino. They hit it off so well, Paul and Michael, so well that in 1980, the two of them decided to co-author a book correctly termed, aptly entitled, Mind War. Now, who is Michael Aquino? Because this is where it gets interesting. Aside from being an intelligence officer and an expert of psychological warfare, just like Vallely, doing this on behalf of our military, he's also an open Satanist. Honestly, I'm starting to think that being an avowed Satanist might be the very reason that he was welcomed into the ranks of our military. And I'm going to tell you his background story. That whole garb that he's wearing, by the way, this is Aleister Crowley. For those of you in the book club, those of you reading, we've been reading Chaos. This is what established Hollywood. You are not imagining it. This is what these people believe in. And in 1969, lo and behold, speaking of the book Chaos, when the military was just spiking the ball, psychological operations, moon landing, whenever you're ready, the Manson murders, whenever you're ready, all military. Anyways, in 1969, this guy Aquino joined the Church of Satan. And in 1969, he then rose through the ranks of that church as the Magister Caverns, of the 4th degree within the church hierarchy. He became the editor of the publication, The Cloven Hoof, and he sat on the governing council of the 9. In 1975, he left to form his own satanic church because just like other churches break apart, there was a schism. And the schism was because they couldn't establish the doctrine, because the Satanists were saying, like, Satan is an idea. And he was like, no, Satan is literal. And so they had the great satanic schism, you could say. He accuses Anton LaVey, who's the founder of the Church of Satan, of heresy for claiming that Satan was merely a metaphor and not an actual being. So I'm going to now let Michael Aquino, who's head of PSYOPs, along with Paul Vallely, who's a board member, tell you what the goals were when he established the Temple of Set. Take a listen.
I just want to start out, I think, by clarifying and understanding the nature of what it is to be a Setian. Obviously, slightly different from a Satanist, but obviously you did spend some time with the Church of Satan under LaVey initially. And just to understand what is the mindset, what is the philosophy of a Setian, what is that worldview like?
The Temple of Set was originally thought to take the context of what our original satanic experience had been out of the Judeo-Christian mythology system. And harking back to the original Church of Satan days, we were looking really to find the nature of what is generally called the human soul. In other words, what it is within us that animates us, that gives us freedom of decision, of conceptualization, the intellectual life force. The Church of Satan, of course, had a certain social criticism aspect to it, and it also liked to hold Judeo-Christianity's feet to the fire. After 10 years, that both of those became sort of played out, And we were looking, as Obi-Wan Kenobi suggested to Luke Skywalker in the first Star Wars movie, to take a first step into a larger universe. So the Temple of Set exists to explore the self, the personality, and we do this through the media of ancient Egyptian religion, which we found to be the most sophisticated. So what you see in the Temple of Set is not anything with an agenda towards good or evil per se, but rather towards understanding consciousness, and once you understand consciousness, to maximize your personal use of it in such a way that you are not the slave to conventions or to propaganda of any sort, for that matter, so that you are in fact in effect a God yourself, responsible for your own decisions concerning matters of good or evil or morality.
I don't see why he would be disqualified to join the military. I mean, it sounds like he's committed. And yeah, this is what's going on. It's so important for you guys to recognize this because there's been so much gaslighting. They try to call people crazy. And when they describe these things and they're telling you this is what's going on in Hollywood. And I just hope that as we have been going through these series, and that's why I think it's so important to, rather than keeping up with daily news, be focused, actually. Because even that is ADHD. You're distracted. You're talking about a bunch of things. Let's actually stay on one topic and follow it to its end. And every time we do this, we end up here where it's very obvious whether we're talking about becoming Brigitte, we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein, and now we are talking about Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA and Faith and this guy that's on the board. We always land here. Okay, this is not a satanic panic. This is history. What he's referring to, and if you are on my book club, we've spoken about this at length. I keep telling you guys about the Frankists that came, right? The Franklin cover-up that came to America. They say, oh, this was a fringe cult. No. These people have always been in power. They've been backed by the bankers. And what he's referring to, what they follow, is the Egyptian Book of the Dead. They've kept this, okay? This is what they follow, spells, rituals, and they do believe in the self. They believe that they can make themselves gods by violating nature. So part of their ritual is to harm the innocent because that's unnatural. It's unnatural to harm a child, and that's what they're doing. I want you to know that. I want you to just put that in the back of your mind and to pay attention to that, and why I urge you guys to get your children out of these schools. I really mean that. Because we are, I think, as a society, waking up all around the world to the fact that these people have always been in power. And it's pretty scary that they've been in power, they're in charge of our military, psychological operations. So in 1986, regarding this guy, the San Francisco police began investigating allegations, not surprisingly, of sexual abuse in connection with the Army's Child Development Center, which is based in San Francisco. A girl came forward in 1987 and she identified him, Aquino, as the culprit. An investigation was launched. The police believed she was telling the truth, but they had to close the case because of insufficient evidence that was found. Even though she was able to describe the house where she was taken to, they said there was insufficient evidence. Now, it's worth noting that Michael Aquino was trained at Fort Huachuca. Yeah, Fort Huachuca, as we've now established, is the hub for intel operations. And there have been a lot of scandals that have happened at Fort Huachuca. And man, did we all endure and survive a psychological operation when Mitch Snow came and told us that he saw Brian Harpole and he saw Erica Kirk at Fort Huachuca in the days leading up to Charlie's assassination, different days. But man, we were going, what is happening? Why do we feel like the whole internet is screaming at us? Yeah, well, that's the home of Army intel psychological operations, and you should know that. Anyways, we now should discuss why it's just so hard for Turning Point USA to stay away. I showed you this chart from these trafficking connections, and you're just not going to believe a relationship that they are not severing. I just find it weird, like where they're having discussions about whether or not they should let Tucker speak on the stage. But I want to have discussions. Like if I'm a board member, I don't think they're going to consider me for it. But I'm open to it, Turning Point USA. I'm open to it. I'll shoot my shot. I would want to talk about some of these pastors that are welcomed onto the Turning Point USA stage. We'll talk about that more after a brief break. All right, you guys, I've spoken about Nimi Skincare before. It is what I use. It's a brand that I genuinely trust. The new year always comes with this pressure to change everything, new routines, new products, new rules. I think that mindset spills into skincare as well sometimes. People feel like they have to switch it up, throw out what works, and chase whatever's new. Well, I'm sticking with Nimi because it's clean, it's straightforward, and it's consistent. It does not change with the season, and neither do the values behind the brand. Every Nimi box has a hidden Bible verse within it. There's just a subtle touch that goes a long way for me personally, especially in the winter when your skin is dealing with cold air and dry heat. Consistency really matters more than novelty. And that's why I've stayed with Nimi Skincare. It's clean, it's made in America, and it's aligned with how I think about taking care of myself. You can learn more by visiting nimiskincare.com. And if you want to use my code Candace10 at checkout, you'll save 10% off your first order. That's NIMI skincare.com. Also want to tell you guys about the Wellness Company because the big medical hack of 2025 was several peer-reviewed studies identifying the direct connections between anti-parasitic medications and their off-label benefits of fighting a wide variety of cancers. And this makes perfect sense. The connection between tumor growth and parasites has been known for years. While the CDC remains silent, they have admitted that millions of Americans suffer from parasitic infections that often go undetected or undiagnosed, which is why Dr. Peter McCullough, who's the chief scientific officer over at the Wellness Company and the world's most published cardiologist, says, quote, these studies make a clear case to do at least one medical grade parasite cleanse annually, end quote. The Wellness Company's compounded ivermectin and mebendazole is a doctor-prescribed gold standard combination dose that is designed to help the body eliminate parasites. Each bottle contains 90 capsules, enough to complete 4 21-day cleanses. The Wellness Company makes the process fully digital as well, so it's very easy. You just fill out a quick intake form, doctor will review it, and your medical grade parasite cleanse will arrive in a week. So if you're looking to reset your health, visit twc.health/Candace and use code Candace at checkout, and you'll save $90 off plus free shipping. That is open to USA residents only. Again, that's twc.health/Candace and use code Candace at checkout. Now, I do not claim to be a public relations wizard. I don't do PR, certainly not. If you Google my name, you'll see. I don't care so much about it. But what I will say that is if a 94 TikTokers were out there making videos about me, accusing me of trafficking children from Romania, I would probably do my very best to stay away from the theme of trafficking and to stay away altogether from the theme of Romania. I just wouldn't even fly over the country for a little bit. But not Erica Kirk, because she's got Andrew Colvett as her PR. And he's like really smart, live texting people, getting caught, doing stuff behind the scenes, which is why she's soon going to be speaking with Greg Laurie's Harvest Church for Turning Point USA's Faith Make Heaven Crowded tour. Okay. I can show you that. I think we have that here on the website so you can see it. This is a real thing that's happening. And they're partnering with the Harvest Church to do this. It says that she is going to be speaking in, live streamed in Orange County. It's Harvest Orange County Church. Now, what's wrong with this? In case you are wondering or have not heard what is going on with Harvest Church and Greg Laurie, here's an article which tells us that Greg Laurie, there's been a number of lawsuits filed against Harvest Christian Fellowship, the founder, Greg Laurie, and also the churches related to alleged abuse of young men at a children's home in Romania. Okay, there's 12 lawsuits actually. The original lawsuit was filed in September by 2 men claiming that Paul Havsgaard, he is a former pastor and a missionary at Harvest Christian Fellowship in Riverside, California. So that's that area where they're all from. Colvette's from there, that area. He's from Santa Barbara, actually. McCoys are from there. And they're alleging that he abused them at a children's shelter in Bucharest, Romania. The allegations include children being tied to radiators, being made to kneel down on walnut shells, being touched inappropriately, and being pimped out for sex. Now, the number of litigants, as I said, has risen to 12, and the law firm that's representing the survivors said in a news release that they are expecting 23 former residents of the home to bring complaints. The most recent complaints were filed in November. The court documents claim that Greg Laurie and the Harvest Christian Fellowship sent funding to Hav's Card, which they obviously did send funding to him while he was there, and they were negligent in supervising him while he was there, despite reports of abuse. And so he's offering back that, oh, well, that's a pastor that we were funding. It's not the entire church. You know, it's not fair to come after the whole church for what Paul Havsgard is being alleged to have done. I'm saying this is just too many times for me. I don't know about you guys. I'm getting Romanian trafficking fatigue. Okay. I'm getting Ukrainian, Romanian trafficking fatigue. It just can't be that all of these military people that are adjacent to the military, go out there in a place where they're perfectly safe. Actually, they're quite immune to prosecution, because that's the deal that gets struck up between the governments, is like, you can do whatever you want on your base. And I'm going, what the heck is going on here? So I reached out to some people that I know, and I say, what is this strand? I don't know much about the military. Why does this keep happening? And what they told me, and this is also proven currently right now, a bunch of South Korean women have filed a unprecedented lawsuit against the United States military for the same thing, for running a brothel where they are stationed in South Korea. And so what they are telling me adds up. It's tracking. What they say is, okay, think of a military base. Anywhere in the world, you have a bunch of men who do not have regular access to women. So in those circumstances, and you also have a bunch of people that are, at the top of that military who, I don't know, maybe could be a bit like Aquino, some satanic tastes. Anyway, they tell me is that they will typically send someone out who will be a woman. So think of like a Ghislaine Maxwell, to go out and to find them their interests, their tastes, young women that can be manipulated. That person will often describe themselves as a casting director to go out there and to tell the women to come onto the base. Once they're on the base, anything can happen to them. Like I said, they are afforded no protections from their government, and our government is not going to prosecute the men that do anything on that base. That's how the typical deal works. And yeah, I don't know. Just like from a PR perspective, I'm not so concerned about why it is that Tucker Carlson, who just believes that we shouldn't get involved in wars, just like Charlie believed, is speaking at Turning Point USA. I am kind of concerned why all of these pastors who seem to be rehabilitating pedophiles are welcomed. I just feels like a thing easily to say, we're just not right now, Greg Laurie, until we get to the bottom of whether or not your church was more involved than these people are alleging. Because it's interesting that he's not saying it didn't happen. He's saying, well, it's not the whole church, just this pastor. Anyways, we'll continue to follow that lawsuit, but I find that to be pointedly absurd. And this is Turning Point Faith in a nutshell, which I am an enemy of. But if you would like me to do your PR too, here, I'll shoot my shot. You can pay me. I'm definitely, I think, more capable of an Andrew Colbert at this. And I will tell you to just stop doing that. I'll just maybe just stop working with creepy pastors. That would be a start. Not a finish, but it could definitely be a start. Anyways, before we get into some of your comments, I do want to acknowledge the fact that Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, died 68. I mean, what a brave battle fought. He kept up his show every day as much as he could when he had the strength to. On X, we were all watching it, and he did say that he was coming to the Lord before he passed. He lost his battle with prostate cancer. He was just 68 years old, so it's very sad. And I think I shared with you, everyone has stories about him and in their political life. And I think about that magic of the Charlie Kirk moment and the Kanye tweet. And like I told you, watching Scott Adams explain it on a little whiteboard of what had happened when these two things were not supposed to happen. Entertainment is speaking, and politics. And now he's ripped a hole in the universe. And so Scott Adams gets to see Charlie first, and he was a very honorable man. And I just wanted to acknowledge that. And for all of his loved ones that are going through this, it's very hard. Even if you're expecting it, it is very hard to go through. So say a prayer for Scott Adams and his family. We're going to take a brief break, and we'll be right back. All right, you guys, with the new year, this is the perfect time to reset, not in some overcomplicated Pinterest perfect way, but by upgrading the things that you use every single day. Fresh sheets, luxe towels, quality pajamas, those small changes completely change how your home feels. That's why I love Cozy Earth. Their luxe bath towels are thick, soft, and they're actually absorbent. The viscous bamboo sheets feel like a 5-star hotel, but better. They're cool, breathable, and they're made for real sleep. Cozy Earth offers a 100-night sleep trial. You can try them out, and if you don't love them, you can return them hassle-free. But trust me, you're not going to want to return them. They also offer a 10-year warranty. Their pajamas are the softest pajamas that I've ever owned. They are also made from viscous bamboo, and they keep me warm and cool at the exact same time because they're breathable, they're soft, and they stay that way wash after wash. So you can start the new year off right and give your home the luxury that it deserves and make home the best part of your life. Head to CozyEarth.com and use my code Candace for up to 20% off. Again, that's CozyEarth.com, code Candace at checkout. And if you get a post-purchase survey, be sure to mention that you heard about Cozy Earth right here. Refresh your routines with comfort that makes every day feel like a new year. Also reminding you guys about American financing, because between groceries, travel, and higher prices, it is easy to feel overwhelmed, especially if you're already relying on credit cards to cover the basics. If that debt is piling up, you should know that you're not alone. If you're a homeowner, you might have considered reaching out to American Financing, but maybe hesitated because you didn't want to give up your low mortgage rate. Well, that's why American Financing created the Smart Equity Loan, which is a simple, smart way to get your finances back on track without giving up your low mortgage rate. Unlike a HELOC, which can fluctuate with the market, the Smart Equity Loan offers a fixed rate, so you'll have one predictable monthly payment. It lets you use your home's equity to pay off high interest debt, free up your cash flow, and still keep your existing mortgage intact. There are no upfront fees. To find out if you qualify, so call 800-795-1210. Again, that's 800-795-1210, or you can visit AmericanFinancing.net/Owens, AmericanFinancing.net/Owens. Okay, you guys. I was very sad yesterday that I didn't have my mug, but it was actually just upstairs. It's cute, right? Conspiracy Girly. We have new merch on the website. You can also buy this mug in 2 different colors, or you can buy a hard copy of the autographed bundle. I have signed both of my books, and yeah, they're personally signed, so I don't use a stamp. Now available on the shop website. Make Him a Sandwich and Blackout. I'm going to read the top comment from last episode. It's from Sparkle Me Silly, writes, Israel calling out citizens in America by their name and labeling them their enemy is so disturbing. President Trump must put an end to this immediately. He won't. This needs to be taken seriously and action taken against these evil, ruthless invaders. If we allow such behavior from any foreign entity, then our government must take a stand to protect American citizens, no matter who it is. They're not going to do that. Nope. We are not going to be saved by the United States government. We are not going to be saved by the Loch Ness monster that lurks in Washington, D.C. That is why I say to you guys, rather than feeling hopeless, make your communities smaller, get your children out of these schools, pay off your debts, stop gambling, stop giving to the things that they have created to enslave us. Make yourself, as much as you can, be sure to buy yourself some property. That's what they want. They want to buy up everything, or they'll blow it up, or they'll burn it. And that's the best thing to do is to realize what you can do as a small group, which is what we have done as much as we possibly can. It's not easy, but slowly, inch by inch, increment by increment, you can just remove yourself from this matrix. Right? Remove yourself so that they can't just do these things to us overnight, which they're doing overnight to other people. And we are a big country that helps us, what are we, 370 million people in our population. So it's a bit harder for them to murder us all, which they would. That's why they prefer the method of vaccines and making us sick and polluting the air and chemicals and things of that nature. But the good news is that we are awake to it. We are awake to it. And by the way, use your speech while you still have it. How you spend your dollars actually matters. Okay, next comment is from Anthony Aguilar. Candace, this is Anthony Aguilar. We mentioned him yesterday. You guys will recall because he sort of rang the alarm on what was happening in Gaza. He went on Tucker Carlson's show, and then he was attacked, and he spoke about Johnny Moore and the fake Gazan humanitarian aid that was really just kind of letting Palestinian children and women be murdered, right? Women and children were just murdered as they were running for food, and men, obviously. Anyways, he writes, Candace, this is Anthony Aguilar, the Gaza whistleblower, Green Beret. I've been to Gaza. I was arrested on the 3rd of September in Congress for calling out AIPAC. I'd love to come on and talk. So many important things. You are amazing. Thank you so much, and thank you for being one of the rare, brave people that is speaking out about what our government is doing. There have been many people before you, but not hardly enough, because they're fearful of this gang that is trying to take over the world. Jenny's Carr writes, something feels deeply wrong. Free speech is under attack. Our food is compromised. Every product seems harmful. The skies are being poisoned. Vaccines are bad. History itself feels uncertain. If there were ever a time for Jesus to return, this feels like it would be it. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And, history gives us the answers. That's why we named one of our episodes last week, The Past is Prologue. It provides the answers. And until you go backward into the theology that's guiding this, and these are satanic rituals. It's real. It's not a joke. It's not imagined. So we're showing you these people. We're showing you what they believe. They gave open interviews about what they believe. It's right there. And that's why they insist on the first thing, which is a psychological operation. That's why they insist on the minds of the youth. That's why I say, pull your kids out of the school. If we could just short the market on public school system, I think things would get crazy pretty fast in a good way. We're already seeing that in Florida. They're like coming to the table like, oh, did we say you needed to get 97 vaccines? Oh, silly us. Because they need the minds, okay? They might have all the money and all the power, but we have the people and we have the truth. And at the end of the day, the truth cannot be defeated because the truth is Christ. Christ is King. Jess Happy writes, instead of spending any money at Amazon on things that I don't need, I'd rather put my money toward this fight. This is good versus evil. It is. And you know what's crazy? Realizing the people that took the money. Like, they're watching the show. They know what they're defending. They know children are being harmed. And they're like, but dang, that $100K in my account monthly is good. I don't know. That, I think, surprised me. Like, I just had the idea that we are basically good, and we would all, if we saw things like, a child being harmed, children being blown up, it wouldn't matter left or right, we would cross arms and be like, okay, no, how do we fix this? I hate you after we fix this, right? Like, I'm gonna whoop your butt, but first let's make sure the kids are okay. And the answer is no. I was wrong, you were wrong, we were all wrong, actually. Money is corrupting. People are taking the cash and going, yep, that's it. All I care about is making this money. And they don't believe in God, by the way. Many of them were brainwashed themselves when they were younger. Some of these people actually believe, I think about this often, they believe they're chosen. They actually think they're allowed to do this. They have been brainwashed to believe that they're allowed to be evil because they're just chosen. And actually, they've just been brainwashed to buy themselves a one-way ticket to hell with a gasoline coat on. That's what they've been brainwashed to believe. And they don't know that. So look at them. They don't know either. They have no idea why they hate and why they believe everything is theirs. And they have no idea what eternity is. They have no idea. The concept of eternity completely evades us until it's going to be here. And I would not want that. Burning in hell for eternity is very, very serious. I would not want that for my worst enemy. And yet I fear that will be the circumstance for a lot of people. The collimation writes, the devil may be in the details, but the details of God are from the mother of God. Look, in the end, God wins, and that's why I'm optimistic. Even when I bring you this news and explain this to you, I know how far we are, that people are not looking at this going, oh, this is crazy. It's like completely, that's not happening. That's how it was in the 80s, the 70s, the satanic panic. Everyone was like, oh, you crazy people, that's not happening. The Franklin cover-up, you crazy people. Now everyone's like, oh, it's happening. Now we got Tim Dillon being like, is this going on? And he's turning it into a joke, but it's dark humor. You can't distract us away from this anymore. They rely on our ADHD. That's another thing. That's why we now do focused series on this podcast. Who killed Charlie Kirk? You know we're getting close. Julius writes, Candace, I just started going to Catholic Mass for the first time ever. I originally grew up in a Lutheran church. I am so pleased to hear that. Yeah, we need to go backward. I don't know what the heck we were thinking. Gosh, I just feel like that was like, I was so brainwashed thinking that these military pastors were in it for good. And now I'm learning about this whole psychological operation. What goes on at Fort Huachuca? What goes on at Fort Huachuca? Huachuca Cabra. A lot going on down there. It's monstrous. Nicole Palik writes, I wonder if the Tate brothers were somehow wrapped up in this situation in Romania. Maybe he knew some information and was going to out it, and they locked him up and took everything so they would shut him up. I wonder. Well, considering that as soon as they landed on American soil, the Zionists wanted to put them in prison just by having no charges in America, that's how you know they're not a part of the government, because the government always protects their own. They protected Jeffrey Epstein. If Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate were working for the government trafficking, they would be protected. They'd probably get standing ovations at Congress, right? Bills passed never to open their files. Just let them go. Leave the Tate brothers alone, right? The people that are attacked are being attacked by the media apparatus because they're not with the media apparatus, okay? Doesn't mean that they're perfect people. Obviously not. They have been in the business. They've talked about this extensively of webcam stuff. I stand against pornography as a Catholic. And you should too, because that's a part of a psychological operation. It renders men weaker. But I think I can confidently say it the way that they were attacked consistently by the government. Now, they weren't in the in crowd. Just Jessica, high five, writes, you connected the dots in our rural Virginia area. Generational farms have been quietly willed over the past few years, often without families even aware. The church operates much like an open Freemason-style club and an old man's boys club. Yes, this is happening, okay? People that are caretakers, assisting the elderly, you guys just like lock in and pay attention to your relatives. This is why they say you're supposed to take care of your own relatives, okay? You're not supposed to put them up in a home because these homes know what they're doing, okay? The gang, it's everywhere. They want to own everything, every parcel of land, and you can feel it right now. They're squeezing us right now. Everything feels catalyzed. You know what I wanted to talk about today? However, I'll save it for tomorrow, but this Project Looking Glass in the CIA, I wonder what they saw. Looking into the future, stealing not Egyptian but Sumerian technology, which is what they did. These are culture vultures. These Egyptsies is what they are. They wear whatever mask they need to. Do I have to pretend to be Catholic? Do I have to pretend to be Jewish? Do I have to pretend to be Muslim? No, they're thieves. They're glorified thieves is what these people are. And they've always been this since the beginning of history. And they stole some Sumerian technology that allowed them to predict outcomes. And that technology stopped working in 2012. We're going to get into that tomorrow. I find it to be fascinating. I wonder if they saw Charlie Kirk. Anyways, we'll see you guys tomorrow.